Hey, what's up guys? Towels here with another Project Diablo 2 video. This time I can show off my Rathma aura for tier 2. This was a long journey, so in this video I'll do an in-depth look at my gear and some other items I've tried along the way, and my number one piece of advice for new bossers as well. Finally, I'll finish off with clips from the fight with some commentary. So I did this fight on my Berserker Barbarian, who's been my bosser all season. Here's the stats for my boss kills. I've run a ton of Lucians and Rathmas as services, which was the bulk of my economy early on, and since I have farmed to tier 1. At this point, I'm done bossing though. I'm just running dungeons on him now for fun, so yes, he can solo it, and I guess that's a teaser for the next video maybe. As for Rathma, I'm probably like the 10th Barbarian to do it, but I might be wrong. They've turned off notifications, so I'm not sure. I gave up so many times along the way, but with this ethereal grandfather, it basically gave me the drive to do it again. Before that, I was using this Schaefer's hammer, and it's a GG weapon, but the stats from the grandfather, along with the minus requirements jewels I put into it, with all this, I'm up to a whopping 4.6k HP and a ton of damage as well. My fast hand is Doombringer with ED IAS jewels, and these are like 35 ED each. I'm using 3 open socket Andariels for Poison Res, IAS skills, and 3 Jaw runes. 3 open socket Gladiator's Bane for the crit, 48% crit just from this. Poison length reduction, flat magic, and fizz damage reduction, cannot be frozen, and the Ohm, Vex, and Jaw. I have another one with 3 Jaws in it, but I couldn't manage to fit that into my final build, so sadly I had to make another. For gloves, I'm running Ghoul Hides with 65 to life, but this belt, Dread Clasp, is absolutely ridiculous. I got it for a burr, and honestly, I think it could be mirrored. If I had a 100 life roll on it, it would be 100% perfect for bossing. But yeah, and then finally, Inferno Strides with max poison res. These should probably be water walks to be honest, but I did need the fire resist on my build exactly. So the last 2 pieces I want to point out are crafted items that I made. This amulet is a hit power craft, Bone Torque, and I did probably 500 or so of these this season. It comes with fat attack rating and faster hit recovery and rolls 4 more mods on top. So for this craft, I slammed every single one that rolled 50 or 75 PLR. I made a few decent ones along the way, but every 75/2 max that I rolled died at Lucian. But I did end up with this, and that's just fine. It's got huge all-res and an enhanced damage slam from Lucian. So the craft uses a Sapphire, Thull Rune, and Jewel, or you can use the hit power Infusion as well. The rings I'm using, Entropy Touch, is also crafted, but this is a Vampiric craft. These rings come with Mana Leech and Poison Length Reduction. PLR is basically PDR for poison damage, and it greatly reduces the damage you take from poison, since the duration is calculated in the damage over time. You notice it big time, especially in tier 2. I end up with 34 PLR on my build, reduced down from 200. Ideally, you want to be at the cap, which is 25. But this craft takes a Hell Rune and a Perfect Skull, and for that reason I don't do a lot of them. I keep my Perfect Skulls for re-rolling rare jewels instead. This is what I use Vampiric Infusions for, and so that's what I've been doing with them, which I've been buying all season. Okay, that's the gear. Skills-wise, I am maxing Berserk, with Taunt and Combat Reflexes as synergies. Combat Reflexes also comes with fat HP in the skill, as well as faster hit recovery. You get hit a lot in Rathma, so good FHR frames are extremely helpful. After that, I've got points into Frenzy and a few into Iron Skin. The physical Void Knights are the purple ones, and they do hit hard, especially because Berserk gives you -10 to your physical resistance, and also Void Knights love to cast Decrepify and Amplify damage, which further reduce your physical res. So, definitely good to stack against that. Finally, Grim Ward. You're going to see this in the fight, but man is it important. Huge shout out to EC Willie for this tip. This means that my relatively low attack rating gets boosted significantly during the second and third phase of the fight, where I can use enemy bodies to cast Grim Ward. Here you see it at 13k and 15k respectively. Finally, my last few points go into Frenzy, because I want to be at a decent IAS breakpoint even when I'm decrepified. For my charms inventory, I'm using a mix of Mastery's Lifers, AR and Life, and some faster Run Walk and Res Charms. The faster Run Walk is again just for Decrepify, which is by far the most annoying part. Alright, about to get into the fight, but first I want to share my number one piece of advice for anyone learning to boss, and especially for Rathma. Pluggy! This is the number one piece of advice I have to give, but it's also the most ignored. Lots of people refuse to try this, and I totally understand because I was right there with you. Specifically, I'm talking about the single player modded pluggy, which I can link down below, and you can download it from the GitHub by following the instructions. So now I'm in the modded pluggy, and I can show you a few tips. First off is the item pack. Here you've got every item you can think of, and even some cracked charms to represent all kinds of skills and stats. It's an easy way to replicate a build without necessarily needing every single item. So, speaking of items, here is a Gladiator's Bane that I can go ahead and show you how to duplicate. So I can put that into a Haragic Cube, grab a key, and then cube it, and you'll see a duplicate right away. However, rather than slamming a million of them and waiting for 3 open sockets, I can also just cube with a tier rune, it's rune number 3, and get 3 sockets. So for example, an if rune with something would give it 6 sockets, as long as it can get 6 sockets. And finally, when I save and exit, I'll get a pop-up notification saying I cannot save the file, and this is because I took the shared stash file and made it read only. This is a pro tip just so that you don't lose any items in the item pack when you're setting up the characters. And also, once a character is set up to boss, I save a backup file so I can go straight back into it after every fight. So here I take my backup file, overwrite the existing save file for this Berserk Barbarian, I go back in, and as soon as it loads, I am ready to go right back into the fight for another practice run. Okay, and now back to the live server, and we'll get into the fight. So, the first portion against Mendeln starts off slow, but will pretty soon open up the ice spires, who then start attacking from those corners. So when you move perpendicularly, it's pretty easy to dodge them and let them pass. Up comes the blood golems, which you need to clear, or else Mendeln will heal from them. But at the same time, there is kind of a cadence to these ice spire attacks, and the more you stay towards the middle, the more you can usually kind of get them to attack at the same time rather than individually, where you're dodging one spike at a time and constantly interrupting your own attacking, right? Because to dodge, you kind of have to let go, you kind of have to back off from your attacks a bit. So in between the blood golem phases, you also have these sequential center attacks from Mendeln. During the blood golem phases, he's invincible, so you can't attack him. That's the sanctuary aura that you see below him. And again, I'm just kind of dodging these ice spikes. This poison sludge nova, you can see, hurts a lot. But that one you can't avoid unless you're standing very close to him in the center. But you can see it coming, so you just prepare by potting before or ready to pot right after. So this is the center series of attacks that will go in the same order, and that last poison nova right there, that's essentially unlimited poison damage. So in order to deal with that, you have to use a poison antidote potion. So during these blood golem phases, sometimes it can be a little tougher than others to actually dodge the ice spires. But when you have them in rhythm and you can dodge multiple at a time, that leaves you a lot of room to still attack. So you see him in the center once again, starting that same series of attacks. He will finish off with the poison nova. If you damage him enough during that phase, in the middle of those attacks, you can phase him out and just get him to spawn the blood golems and not cast the poison nova. That just depends on if you've been able to do enough damage to him while he's standing there in the middle. So back to the middle again. This time, this is the messiest clear that I have for this one. You can see I didn't actually finish up that first golem. I'm getting knocked back by a bunch of these blue triangles, so sometimes this just happens, right? And during the fight, if you do let any of the golems get to him, again, you do heal him down. However, what doesn't happen is you don't add extra phases to the fight. Just because he heals, even though the phases are based on the percentage of HP, and what he's not going to do is add additional wave of blood golems or anything like that, which is good because that would be rough. So once you get him down low enough, you'll see that he teleports to the center and you'll be moving on to the next phase. So I'll skip through these poison sections and get on to the Rathma fight. Here, you need to listen for the Bone Spear. So you gotta know when it's coming so that you're ready to either potion or dodge. In this case, I just face tanked the first few. Berserk is a very offensive skill, and so I do spend quite a bit of time actually just tanking the damage with my 4.6k HP and just being ready to potion. So on that first Conjured Soul skeleton, I did cast my Grim Ward. So that's a big boost to attack rating and to damage, so really important that I do get that up. These Void Knights come as different phases for this part of the fight. So Rathma is going to summon them as he hits different breakpoints in his HP as well. You can use those bodies for Grim Ward also. But that Bone Spear is the main attack to really keep an eye out for. And so you saw there that he teleported 3 times and casted 3 Bone Spears. That's one series of attacks that he'll repeat. So if you see him teleport and immediately cast a Bone Spear, you know 2 more of those are coming, and by predicting that, it's a little easier to dodge. So that purple Void Knight is the one that I do want to target first at any time I can, because he's the physical damage one and he's going to hurt the most. So these Bone Spears, you can't dodge all of them. I mean, I can't dodge all of them, so I do expect to get hit. The rest of the damage is mostly chip damage, so it's likely not going to kill you, and so you don't really want to pot for any of those unless you're super low. 4.6k HP is a lot, so you do have to get used to your orb kind of dropping down and being low, and also not panic potting when you're at like 2/3 or 3/4 health and waiting until you're actually fairly low. When you get really low, like down to like a few hundred HP or something like that, you do have 4.6k HP total, and so at that point sometimes you do need to double pop as well, because full rejuvenation potions, they have a cap of 2000 HP healing, so with that you might sometimes need to actually pop twice. So that was the last wave of Void Knights. Now it's just 1v1 versus Rathma. I know when each of those Bone Spears are coming, and so I just face tank and damage. Before the last phase, I want to mention one thing in this potion section where you can actually check your IAS frames under Decrepify. So if you go to one of the Void Knights in this section and draw out a Decrepify curse, at that point you can then press 8, open up your advanced stat sheet, and check where you are on your frames. Because what I noticed here is that I dropped all the way down to 14 frames per attack based on this Decrepify, but I was very close to the 13 frames per attack, and that's when I decided to add a few more points into Frenzy to make sure I was at least at 13 FPA, which is just ever so slightly less horrible. Okay, and now jumping into the last phase of the fight. So it's even more crucial here to pay attention to the phases of the fight here, which again is based on percentage health remaining. So in this one, you're always looking out for the Bone Spear from Rathma, right? So you keep an eye and an ear out for it. That first Conjured Soul, you want to Grim Ward it and just make sure. That Poison Nova, make sure that you are Antidote Potioning right after it, and again, just dodging and refilling your belts. So after Mendeln does that central attack, you know that the Void Knights are coming, right? So before this, I'd like to refill my potion belt as much as possible, and then I'd be aggressive. So I'm aggressive going after the Knights, and also expecting a lot of damage and being ready to potion, right? So that Sludge Nova, you see the wind up, you know it's coming. If you know you can survive it, then just wait and potion right after it. So in this time off in between phases, then that's when you want to refill the belt, and then swing a bunch of times, and you should expect to see Void Knights again shortly. First, he's going to do his central attacks. You see the Poison Nova, and now you know to refill and then swing away and spawn those Void Knights. So there they are, and I'm looking again straight for the purple one and expect to take a lot of damage during this part. And he's actually phased right into the next Poison Nova as well. So at some point, I think I used 2 antidote potions by accident, and so I'm now empty on the empty on antidote potions in my belt, but I still have one extra one in my inventory, thankfully. So as I'm running around through here, I think I accidentally dropped Frenzy at some point in here. I have so many close calls on damage, but that's just tier 2 bossing for you, you know. Oh man, so many close calls. Any one of those honestly could have ended my run. It's not an exact science when it comes to this, but you just try to dodge as many of the big attacks as you possibly can. And for me, I'm just holding on for dear life, basically. So as I run through, you drop your cube, you get the rest of the belt potions into your inventory and hopefully into your belt. Yep, so a bunch more damage. Those bone prisons also, you need to have a quick reaction time on those because they impede your movement, and if you're clicking elsewhere on the screen, then they're not going to help you. So that bone spear I failed to dodge also. A lot of times if you're running straight away from the bone spear, it's just going to catch up to you and tag you, so you got to try to move perpendicular as much as you can, so just stepping to the side. Alright, last wave of of Void Knights. There's one additional Void Knight per wave. There's the antidote potion I had in my inventory. Here I've dropped Frenzy, unfortunately, at a pretty bad time. So the last wave has 6 of them. That was 69 HP. Nice, but also really not nice. So that's all my rejuvenation potions. I have what I have, I just gotta go with it. So was able to kill the last Void Knight. Again, there's 6, and then there's 4 and 5 in the first 2, and then 6 on the last one. Thankfully, Rathma and Mendel teleport next to each other right here. I'm swinging away. Mendel goes down. I'm down to my last potion. Okay, 0 potions, and then thankfully Rathma goes down. So, my goodness. Yep, that was the fight. That was the fight from my perspective. Not easy, but I will say easy peasy right here. And for any subscribers, if you comment easy peasy down below, I'm going to enter you into a chance to win some bossing gear. Like I said, I am done with bossing for the season. I'm just going to keep my dungeon build pretty much, and I'll slowly be giving away the rest of my gear. So comment easy peasy down below. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and that's it for this. Here's a quick blind slam on an Annie as well. Anyway, that's the video. Hope you all enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.